Welcome to my first tank project. I'm Justin, and this tank was started about 30 days ago. I forgot to hit the record when I did make this here and put the soil in it and got things started for the very first time. So the scaping for this one here was missed a bit. And this is what the tank looks like after 30 days, doing absolutely nothing to it except for doing the occasional water change one time a week. And of course cleaning the front glass so I could get a look through it. And as you can see, it's a desert wasteland. There's absolutely a big bloom of algae, and even though it looks like there's not a single sign of life, you can see all these here little things, all these little white they look like they're moving. Those do not look like air bubbles. So as I'm zoomed in here, I see a couple little things. It looks like there's a little bit of life in here that started that probably should not be in here. But as you can see, the rest of the tank, it's got quite a bit of green gunk built up. You can see it there in the background. Now, when this here tank was started, there was a couple of things done wrong. There's many things done wrong in this here tank, and we're going to do this here series. What we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to just do things one stage at a time. We made sure we knew better to not add any fish right away to this here tank because it was going to be a disaster at first. So what you do when you get a first tank, you put in your soils, you put in your stuff, but there's a lot of things that people don't warn you about. Like when you're using an aqua soil that's like maybe a little bit rich in nutrients. If you don't put a layer of sand over it, you're going to get this here disaster that I have right here. So this is what I did was I put a very rich aqua soil down, some Amazon soil, I think is what it is, or any ADA rich soil. It's made for shrimp and it was not made for this here type of environment. So this here is I think this is a 30-gallon tank in total, and it doesn't have a very good filter in it right now. But what I did was I set this here tank up for failure. The initial plan was to get the tank started. I know I need about 30 days for the tank to acclimate before it's going to be ready to have fish in it, so it has lots of time to build up this here bacteria that it's going to need, and then we're going to slowly introduce fish to it as we go. But I took this here tank through a couple of stages, and this is the 30 days after. But now we're actually quite a bit in the future, and the tank looks quite a bit different today. So I'm going to bring you through the process of what I did to clean it up and get it into at least a little bit better, a presentable shape. And this is going to be something that you should expect in your first 30 days of having a tank. This is called the diatom stage, I think. And what it's going to do is it's going to go through a big bloom of algae. It's the first time the water doesn't have any beneficial bacteria, but it doesn't have any good and or any bad. So at first it's going to fight over which one's going to win. And if you don't add any plants or any other things to your tank to help fight against this, you're going to get quite a bit of it. This is just absolutely normal. But I want to show and prove how you can turn this here type of a tank, what it looks like now, quite a disaster. Look at it. It's just, I'm pretty sure these here white little bugs in here are going to be something that is going to cause me a problem later on, but I'm not really sure. So right now it's just a wasteland, and we're going to try and transform it into something that's going to be quite a bit better. We're going to use pearlweed. This is going to be a pearlweed tank. We're going to absolutely completely blanket it. We want it to be just all ground level veg. This is going to be something that we're going to later on turn into something else and hopefully use this here for aquascaping later in the future. This is just going to be a planet tank for us, and we are not using any sands or gravels or anything inert. This is all aqua soil, and it's going to be very difficult not to have algae blooms in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up, and we're going to probably go through a little bit of fast forward here while we do things, and it's going to show through the stages as we go and what I did to clean it up. Some of it's going to just be fast forward, some of it's going to be blurred. I did make a couple mistakes doing the recording for this one here. It's going to be my first one, but what we're going to do is we're just going to get started here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm trying to get a view of what it's going to look like from start to finish. So I'm going to get a really good look of in here and how it looks, so that you can see what awful mess this is. And I'm going to show you how to turn it around, and we're just going to do this step by step, so let's jump into it. And there we go. I scrubbed the sides of it and filled it back up. I forgot to push record on the camera, so I ended up missing filling it back up. But it's just a murky mess right now. It'll probably take a couple hours to clean up, so we'll just let it clear up. Alright, it actually took about a day and a half to clear up, but now it looks quite a bit different and it looks quite a bit more clean. Now, we didn't do a very good job of cleaning it up because we do plan to do a touch-up in another week. But we're just going to take a look at how it looks right now. And then we're going to come back here in a week to see what it kind of looks like. There's still these here little floaties. These here things that look like bubbles aren't necessarily bubbles that are floating around. The more I got cleaning, the more I seen some of these here little white... It looks like detritus worms, but I'm not really sure. I just see them floating around. But we're just going to take a nice close look. You can see that there is still a layer of algae on the floor. Now, we didn't add anything. We didn't add no snails. We didn't add any kind of cleanup crew to get rid of this here stuff. So it is going to sit around, and that's just one of the things. Unless you're manually cleaning it out. Like over here, I'm going to have snails. They keep most of the stuff. There's a little bit of string algae over here, but that's because I have my room a little bit too warm. I have it 27, 28 degrees. When it should be a little bit cooler, it probably wouldn't grow. So a little bit too much light, a little bit too warm. But over here, this is going to stay a consistent layer because there's nothing eating it. See, there's fish that you can get that'll eat it. There's a couple other things that you can get that'll eat it as well. I usually use snails, but you can see in here this is old soil. There's lots of old snail remnants, but no actual live snails. And there's a couple other things, like I said, you can get that you can add in here, like shrimp. Alright, here we go. This is 1 week after, and look at the difference. Yes, the green is coming back a little bit, but you can at least see some of the more dark soil coming through again. Some of this here will clear itself up as the bacteria, the good bacteria, comes in. And I will be introducing a couple of plants, and I think I'm going to put 3 or 4 fish in here and a snail. Just a single snail. We're going to try and just do this here with one snail to see if it keeps things cleaned up. We do not want to get overrun with a population of snails, but we might actually look at getting fish and shrimp that are going to take care of the algae. So I'm going to take a little bit of time to research of a couple of really good algae eaters. I know there's like Almano shrimp or whatever, and there's a couple of other fish that I want to check out because I would like to have this here as a community tank, as well as trying to figure out a name for it, and we're going to keep it going for as long as possible. I'm going to start it out just as a planet tank, and I think I'm going to build a community tank later on with this here tank, but for now this is going to be the one that we're going, and this is going to be just a start from scratch, low maintenance. We're not going to spend a bunch of money. See, if I would have spent a bunch of money and put a bunch of plants in here, I wouldn't be having the same problem. If I would have put the correct cleanup crew, shrimp, a couple of other things in here and had fish in it a couple of weeks after it was set up, I might not have the same algae problem. So those are things to keep in mind. My planet tanks didn't do near this here bad, but you're bound to have different problems with different kinds of soil and different kinds of things that you use for substrate. When I use just gravel and planet, just my basic things, I think this is pearl weed. And it seems to do pretty good. It takes all the nutrients out of the water column. And the Vallisneria over on the other side, I have Vallisneria growing. I have a couple of tanks of it. This one here, they're a mess because it's 27 degrees and they enjoy the colder. But I'm just using outside gravel that I found around the house, which did not do very good. As you can see, the bloom of algae. This stuff does not do very good. I've tried aquarium things, inert sand, a few other things do a little bit better. But I just threw the snails in. The snails take care of it pretty good. And once you clean it up once or twice, it'll probably get rid of it for good. Just make sure that you cut down your snail population as you get rid of your algae, because once they run out, you'll end up with a couple of dead. And this is 7 days later. I did a little bit of maintenance on the tank on the left. Sorry about all the mess. I do have this here quite a sketchy setup, but this is 1 week later. The algae didn't come back on the other tank. This here tank took a little bit of maintenance. I cut out all that string algae and took some of the Vallisneria out. And this here tank hasn't really spiked too much in the algae. I do need to give it a little bit of a touch up to kind of get things like straightened out a little bit. I can see a little bit of green coming on the glass again. And there at the bottom, it's going to leak up from the soil because I definitely should use something to cap the soil off. But that's the way it's going to look for now. And it's just going to take us a little while to clean it up. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up and we're going to get it ready to add plants. And we're going to move to the next step. We're going to add plants to it and fish. I think it's ready for 1 snail. We're going to add 3 to 4 fish. And then I think what we're going to do is just, we'll see how it looks from there. We'll throw in some plants. But we're going to fast forward here while we do the maintenance. We're just gonna get it as clean as we can get it. We ended up leaving a little bit of algae kicking around in the glass, but it's still not too bad. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna scrub it as clean as we can get it, stir it up, and then we're just gonna fill it up. And what we're gonna do is give it a little bit more time. I've decided to give it a little bit more time. I'm just gonna give it the best cleaning I can and just fill it back up for now. I actually think it does need a little bit more time. The stuff that we use for the substrate, the soil, is a little bit rich in stuff, so there's gonna be quite a bit of issues. I noticed that it's fluctuating back and forth, and so we don't want to have any issues. We are gonna give it a little bit more time. So what we're gonna do right now, we're just gonna fill it back up with water, let it clear, and we're gonna check on it here in just a couple of minutes. Alright, and there we go. It's almost full now, and you can see it's quite a bit more clear. You can definitely tell that there's a lot of algae still stuck to the bottom of it here. We're going to zoom out. So you can definitely tell that it needs a little bit more time before it's going to be as clear as the other tank, and there's quite a bit of algae around. But again, the next time that we clean it, it should clear up most of this here stuff. And if we had snails and anything else in there, we would have definitely had a little bit more of a cleaner. And we're going to plug this here in. It's going to be a little bit of time still yet before it's going to be as clear as it should be. We're going to turn this here on so the bubbles are going to mess it up. But there we go. We're just going to fix this here so it doesn't leak over. Finish filling it up. Let's stir up things. And we're going to have to clean the filter. But that's it for this one here. We're just going to wait for our next week. One more week, and then we're going to add some more stuff to it. Until then, let's just take a look here. So we removed all the Vallisneria from the tank over here, and it cleaned it up quite a bit. We got rid of the string algae that was growing in here. We picked it out manually. Usually I like to let the environment itself be kind of natural and clear itself up. So I'd like to fix it by either removing some snail or, you know what I mean, changing things up so that it's not there. But I actually removed it this here time because I'm going to fix them up a little bit. I'm changing the tanks around quite a bit. I'm trying to have a snail-free tank, or I not pollute it with snail tank. But it's been quite hard. Once you get them, you kind of have them. Wow, that does look it's quite a bit different than when we first. So that's what, 50 days I think now, almost. So it's looking quite a bit different, and it's going to go through quite the process. We're going to change things up. Wait till we add the things to it. It's going to add quite the atmosphere to it. Okay, this is actually just the next day, and I wanted to take a video of it because it looks so much more clear. There's still a little bit more cleaning up in that tank. That tank's just kind of like the hospital tank right now. But this tank looks so much more clear. The water is very much more clear. And there's lots of these here white things floating around. They look like air bubbles, but they're definitely not. Some of them are, but trust me, some of them aren't. And that looks so much more clean, so much more clear. And this is almost ready. I would say one more cleaning and we should be good to add some little guys to it and some plants. I'm kind of getting excited. This here tank has grown quite a bit in the last 40 days. And watching it go through the diatom stage and watch it go through this here, I'm glad I didn't add fish to it right away, because cleaning this and having all this here maintenance issues while there was fish in it would have been quite the headache. So that is something to always keep in mind when you're starting your first tank. Giving it 30 to 40, 50 days to see how it's going to react with the light you have in your area or your water will definitely help you quite a bit to determine what you want to get to put in it. So I'm going to want some like Almano shrimp. I'm going to want some other things that eat algae, because I know that my water is rich in minerals. And I'm going to have probably issues with it the whole entire time. And if I'm going to be using soil, I'm definitely going to have the issues. So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep this here up. We're going to try and clean it up one more time. So we'll use a paintbrush this time, and we'll stir up everything on the top of the substrate. We're going to stir it up so that when we're draining it, we'll suck some of it up and get rid of it. We'll see how that there looks in a little bit.
Okay, I think we got it about as clean as we're going to be able to get it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of plants in here. I think it's called pearlweed. I'm not 100% sure of what it is because I actually got it when I ordered a bunch of other plants. But what we're going to do is we're going to add about 5 to 6 clumps of pearlweed. And I'm going to show now what underplanting your tank is going to do to it. So this is going to be another process. So when you're adding things to your tank and you first get your tank and you're like, what should I get for my tank? There's a lot of things that you should be thinking about. And plants, if you're going to put plants in your tank, I definitely suggest making sure that you put a lot of plants, overplanting in your tank. Because if you underplant in your tank, you're going to have more problems with algae than if you overplant. I might be a little bit of counterintuitive, like because if you have a bunch of deaths, a bunch of plant deaths, you are going to have algae because of the plant deaths as well. But if you have a lot of plants to consume the nutrients that's coming up in the soil, you're going to have a lot less problems with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to plant very lightly for now because this is pearlweed and it's going to spread very fast. We're going to be able to go through and see how the problem gets less and less as we get more and more pearlweed. So as we plant this here, and as it grows, we're going to be able to see it going through the stages a lot better of what it's going to be like if you underplant, how long it's going to take us before the plants meet up with what we add to it. And what we're going to do is we're not going to add very many fish. We're probably going to add 4, and we'll probably add just a single snail. And that's going to be a very small amount of load for a fish tank this size. This is a 30 or a 40 gallon tank. I think it might even be a 29-gallon tank. And so that's going to have 4 baby fish. We're not going to put full adult fish in here. We're actually going to put a small spool of 4 guppies in here. So I'm hoping we have like a male or two males or a female, or at least one of each in there. For now, we're not going to really worry about it. If it looks a little bit small, they look lonely, we will add more. But what we're doing right now is we're splitting up the guppies, the baby guppies as they're born. We're going to be moving the very, very small babies to this here tank because the filter won't suck them in and chew them up. As the one beside it to the left has a filter that's going to suck up the babies and kill them. So we have the Tidal 55 is the filter that I'm using on the other one, and this one here is just an in tank one that just has bubbles, and I feel like it has a lot less chance of sucking in the little baby fish because it's got a sponge filter, a sponge on the intake and stuff. And the Tidal 55, it's a beautiful filter. I definitely have a video covering that if you're actually interested in a very good filter for your tank. I definitely suggest the Tidal 55, even for a 20-gallon tank. It's a beautiful filter. It's got changeable filter in it. You can take out the stuff, you can change it, you can add charcoal, you can do so much with it. It's a great little rig. I've actually had it for like 2 years, and I did make a video covering it. I definitely think it's a great little filter to start with, especially for this here size of a tank. It's made for a 50-gallon tank, but I definitely think that it will work very good for anywhere from a 20+ gallon tank. Now we're just going to kind of randomly place all of this here pearlweed all around. We might add Vallisneria later on, but the problem with Vallisneria is my tank isn't a very tall tank. So if you have a short tank, if you buy regular Vallisneria or Tiger Vallisneria, it's going to be a little bit too big for your tank, and it's going to end up leaking over or out of your tank, or it'll hang at the top and cause the flow at the very top of your tank not to be very good, which will cause algae or like a pond scum to build up in certain spots. So I haven't enjoyed that very much. The cat seems to be helping me plant here. One sec. Okay, and like I said, I'm just going to kind of put this here in random placements. And I'm going to try and video record it as it goes. What I expect it to happen is as I plan it, the first couple of days it'll seem to do fine, and then I'll notice as we go, we'll have brighter green tops and some of it will be darker green because all the old stuff, it'll go through like an acclimation period. It'll start to transform and some of it will die off and some of it will grow new. And where I put it in the soil, we'll see new growth coming from the soil, and at the very tops we'll see the new growth, and I think all of the middle will die off, and we're going to go through another diatom stage because of all the plant matter I add to the to this here environment that dies and there's nothing to consume it, it's going to make it go through another big stage of algae, another big bloom, because we're adding the plants. So that's a thing. It's like some people will tell you to add lots of plants, it'll help. But if you add a certain amount of plants or too much plant that's not trimmed back correctly, you can actually add too much dying or decaying plant to your environment, and it just could cause you just as many problems as plants can help you. So that's some of the things we're going to see as I go through this here video. This here series is going to be many. These are some of the things that I actually have seen happen where I've had a couple of tanks. I'm not super great at looking after my tanks, but these are some things that if you're starting a brand new tank and you're seeing them and you're all panicking and you're trying to do bunches of things to fix it, and just don't worry about it. I'll show you how it doesn't really matter. Like this here tank will catch back up and fix itself. Even no matter how careless we are with it, it will catch itself back up. There is going to be ways to fix it, and this is going to be a very rough tank. This is going to go through a rough journey as we go through, and we're going to plant things in it. Like I said, we're going to bare minimal plant, so that's going to be another problem. We started this here for 30 days. The first thing that we did, the biggest problem we did, was we added soil with no sand on top of it. So this is a very rich, an Amazon soil. So like ADA has a couple of soils too, and they're rich. They're for shrimps and plant it. And usually when you do have a normal tank, you have some decorated sand or something like that to cap it off, so the nutrients isn't leaking into the rest of your tank, which causes you algae. So the first thing that we did wrong was we put this without a cap and we left it for 30 days, and it released all this here nutrients into the water column, which in turn, we didn't have any plants, we didn't have anything to like absorb this here nutrients, caused the algae bloom. So doing regular water changes more than once a week would have probably prevented this from getting so bad. So that was the first thing that we did wrong. We should have taken the time and we should have done our water changes more than once a week. We should have done them maybe every 3 days or less. Maybe every day we should have done a 25%. Just for the first little while while it got acclimated. And there we go. Now that it's full of water, it looks very clean and very ready. We didn't clean the back wall of it there 100%. And you can tell that my kids painted the back. It looks really good. But the Pro Weed is looking fairly good now. I'm just trying to get the cam off the stand here. And there we go. It's completely full now. I changed the light a little bit, so the color is going to be a little bit different than it was at the first of the video. That was my mistake. I changed the lighting at the top here, so it ends up being not quite as green looking, and I just thought it made it actually look quite a bit better, so I left it. And you can see now that there's not near as much algae all over the ground, and the Pro Weed is going to do very good. What we're going to do is we're probably going to leave it for a day or two, and we'll come back to it and take another video of it just to see how it progresses in a couple of days. I definitely think that we're going to see quite a bit of difference in the color of the Pro Weed, and we're definitely going to see quite a bit of difference on what the color of the tank is going to end up like. We're going to see the algae coming back a little bit, so we're definitely going to have a little bit of issues with it fighting for it. So we'll give it another day just to get used to the plants before we stick anything else in here. We just want to make sure that we're not going to have any spikes in ammonia, so we're definitely going to test the water every single day. That's another thing that you should do, even if it does cost quite a bit. Just get yourself the test strips. I suggest getting a really good test kit, but definitely get some test strips for your first 30 days, because you don't want to be wasting your expensive test kit for something you don't have any animals in yet. So you can just use them. You don't have to worry about how accurate it is, and just constantly test the pH, constantly test, see what you're going to have the problem with the most. And usually the first thing that moves in your empty tank without fish in it is going to be the thing that you have a constant problem with, or something that you're going to have a problem with because of your water or because of your light situation. So it's a good time to monitor and see what's going on right now, because you might end up having to turn down your light intensity, turn down either the light intensity or the time of light that you have it on per day, because these things are going to make a big difference to how much algae you have, and probably not going to affect your fish very much. So having your light up and down really is only going to change your planet tank. If you have fake plants, it's going to cause you to have more algae than when you have real plants, though, because at least the real plants benefit from the light being on and can overgrow, which will lead to just having to trim them a little bit more, which isn't an issue. But it will lead to a lot more algae growth if you have nothing to consume the nutrients. We'll just get a little bit closer here as we can see. And this is just going to be a really good documentation to see how it's going to look as we go with time. I still do have to figure out a name for this here tank. I want to name it. I want to get this here as a community tank. I want to make it permanent. I'm going to add some stuffs to it. I might have to look for a piece of driftwood or a rock or something, and just kind of make it like a simple tank. For just the learning experience, I'm going to make this here video. I'm going to video every single thing I do to this here tank. So if you're going to follow along, you can definitely leave name suggestions down in the description below. And if you're following along, this is going to be a step-by-step tank. This is going to be probably more than a year long. And it's going to be the process. Anytime something changes in the tank, I'm going to record it. And I'm going to take the recording every single day so that I can do at least a once a month update and put a compilation of every single time something changes. I'll go take a short video of it, and I'll try to put it all into a video so that we can watch the updates together as it unfolds and as the tank goes. So if you're starting your very first tank and you're doing things, you'll be able to see what I did maybe hopefully before you have the problem, so that you know what I did to fix the problem. And a lot of the things that I did have issues with when I first started were just simple things like how much light, how intense the light was, and a timer. So I definitely suggest having timers, having your light set correctly, and if you're going to have a super intense light, to have your light on for just a shorter amount of time through the day. And I found that was one of the fixes. Do regular water changes. It's more important than you know to keep a regular water change. This is going to solve just a lot of the problems with your algae. Just scrub the glass, drain the water, put new water in. Those things should keep you at a fairly clean tank. As you can see, these here got a little bit away from me. But as we go through this here series, I'll show you how this here tank won't be too hard to manage. This is what the tank ended up looking like just a few days after we full cleaned it, scrubbed it, and put the plants in it. And there's the fish. We add 4 fish. See if we can find them now that we put them in there, and 1 snail. There they are. So we added a couple little guppies. So there's 2 little guppies there I can see. The other ones might be on the bottom, with a little bit of food, and we added a snail. So this is probably about 5 days after we cleaned it, and you can see the plants are doing well. There's a couple of fish in there now, and I expect this here to actually make the tank start working quite a bit better now that there's a little bit of introduction to for like the fish will be in here and stuff like that. The tank is going to start building its bacteria that it's supposed to be building a little bit more, a little bit quicker. This is going to speed up the process, and the snail is going to be digesting things. The fish are going to be eating. They're going to be, the whole process is just going to be started, and hopefully this will help the plants out. As you can see, the plants are still alive. They're still doing pretty good. It's only been a couple of days. You can see a little bit of die-off on the plants, but not too bad. You can definitely see that the algae is not coming back as quick as it was. And it's looking pretty good. Let's see if we can catch the rest of the little fish. I only seen 2 of them so far. They're a little shy, just put them in there. I definitely probably should have picked bigger fish, and we might even switch it out to beta later on, or some other type of fish. So definitely, if you have any other plants or fish suggestions, maybe snails, cleaners, a mono shrimp, anything else that you think would be really good for this here tank that's going to be kept in between 25 and 27 degrees temperature, definitely leave it in the description below. I'd be very interested to actually add some things for the community in this here and get some names for them going and stuff like that there, because it'd be a series I hope that I'll be able to do for at least the next year. But that's it for this one here. I just wanted to make sure that I go through this here process and update the tank as I go. I appreciate everyone for stopping in, but take it easy, and thanks for stopping in. But until next time, bye!